JJ Math. Let's now look at something completely new, the Sn formula for the arithmetic series. So this is something that you've not done in previous grades because adding terms and summing terms is something completely new to grade 12. Okay, so the Sn formula is very similar to the Tn formula, it's just a bit bigger. Okay, so there it is, and this one is specific to the arithmetic series because it has a d value in it. Now, luckily you will get this formula on your formula sheet, so don't get intimidated, you are going to get it and you will be able to use it. Now there's a lesser known one that you are not going to get on your formula sheet, so please study this one. There's about 5% of the time that you're going to use this one. It's very seldom, but you don't want to get stuck in an exam because you forgot about this formula. At the end of the video, we will do an example that uses this. Okay, so in the first video in this sequence and series chapter, we looked at the Tn formula. So that we used if we had a specific position and we wanted a term, or they wanted the position of a specific term. But now the question will change and they'll ask you what is the sum of the first 10 terms, or give the total of the first 20 terms. Then you know those are the keywords for this specific formula. I am still going to use the little block to fill in the values that I have. It just makes it so much easier to see what I actually want in this question. So let's look at the sum if we need to get the sum of the first 15 terms. I don't know what Sn is. Just going to put a question mark, but I know that A is 5, and then D is 8 minus 5, so D is 3 that I'm adding the whole time. Okay, let's sub in. So I'm working out S15, 15 over 2, 2 times 5, plus 15 minus 1 times 3. Okay, now you are in grade 12, so you can just sub into the formula and then use your calculator to get the answer. They're not going to give you marks for each step in between. So by using the calculator, I can see that this answer is 390. That's it. That's what they wanted. So if I add the first 15 terms of this sequence, the answer will be 390. Let's look at another one. So in this case, they're asking me what is the sum of the first 25 terms. Once again, I do not know what Sn is. I can see that A is minus 15. D is a little bit more tricky, so I'm going to use the formula that we've discussed previously. Term 2 minus term 1. And that gives me a value of negative 7, which is my D value. So now I can just use the formula and sub in everything. So the sum of the first 25 would be equal to 25 over 2, 2 times negative 15, plus n minus 1, so 25 minus 1, times D. Typing that all into my calculator, I can see the answer is minus 2475. Great. Like I said, no other steps needed. If you sub into the correct formula, you will get your marks. Most of the time, this is a 2-mark question. Sometimes they'll give you 3 marks. Example 3. Find the sum of the first 13 terms. So, just going to use the formula again. I'm working out what Sn is. A is 20, D is 8, and then N is 13, like they said. Okay, so S13 would be equal to 13 over 2, 2 times 20, plus 13 minus 1 times 8. Question 1, very easy. The answer would just be 884, my calculator says. Okay, but now the advanced question in this section of the work. How many terms would add up to 1,920? Now, this is going to draw on your knowledge from previous algebra sections, especially trinomials. Okay, so we are going to work out what is n if Sn is equal to 1920. So I'm updating my list. I now know the answer of the question, but I do not know what n is. Okay, now most of the time in a question like this, you will get 2 values for n. But something that's very important that you must remember, n cannot be negative and n cannot be a decimal or a fraction. So if you get 2 answers, always discard or ignore the one that's negative or a decimal. And if you get 2 answers that's negative or decimal, then most of the time something went wrong in the question. So just redo the question and then choose the right one. Okay, let's start subbing in. So for question 2, 1920 would be equal to, I don't know what n is, so I know what a is, 2 times 20 plus n minus 1, and my d value is still 8. Okay, the easiest in this case would be to multiply by 2 first, so that would just give me 3840 is equal to, and then I'm just going to simplify this bracket a little bit more. I know that 2 times 20 is 40. I'm going to distribute the 8 in, so it's going to be 8n minus 8. And in my next step, I am going to multiply the n in. So like I said earlier, we are aiming to get this in trinomial format so that we can solve the trinomial in any method that you are comfortable with. So in this case, if I multiply the n in, 40n plus 8n squared minus 8n, 3840 is on the left. Okay, if I want to solve a trinomial, I need a 0 on one side. So I'm going to just rewrite this in standard form. So I'm going to put the 8n squared first. 40n minus 8n is going to give me plus 32n, and then minus 3840. Now, many ways to solve this. This is possible to solve if you divide everything by 8. You will get to an answer. If you have a special calculator, you can use the trinomial function on the calculator to solve this. But the safest way is to use the quadratic formula. That will always give you the answer, and it will always give you full marks. If you're going to use the calculator, then there's a lot of tricky bits where teachers can see if you just use the calculator, and you don't really know what the answer should be. So just be careful there. The safest bet is to use the quadratic formula. So remember the quadratic formula we learned in grade 11, minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so in this case, my b value is negative 32, sorry. Okay, sorry, my b value is 32, but the formula had a negative in it. So minus 32 plus minus the square root of 32 squared minus 4a and then c. Okay, all over 2a. And if you type in this correctly, first with a plus, then with a minus, you would see n is equal to 20, or n is equal to negative 24. Now, like I said earlier, n cannot be negative, and it cannot be a decimal, so therefore I'm going to put a not equal sign there, and say the sum of the first 20 terms is equal to 1920. Example 4. The first term of an arithmetic series is 8, and the 24th term is 100. What is the sum of this series? Okay, if I compile my little list, I don't know what Sn is, that's what they're asking me. I know that A is 8, but with the info in the question, I don't really know what D could be. I know the first term and the 24th term, but I don't know D. So now I'm stuck with a little problem, because the big formula has a D in it. But they tell me the 24th term is 100, and that's the only info I have. So I'm going to now assume that this series only has 24 terms in it. So n is 24. And that would then make L equal to 100, because if it only has 24 terms, and the 24th term is 100, that is the last term. And this is the special case that I mentioned earlier, where you would then have to use the other formula. Now, don't worry, there are other ways. If you forget this formula in an exam, there are other ways to get D and then solve this question. It just takes very long, and the chance of making a mistake on your path to getting the D value is very high. So rather just memorize this formula and be ready if it comes up. So now, very easy. It would just be n over 2a plus L. But I know that n is 24. I know that a is 8. And I know that L is 100. And therefore, the sum of these 24 terms would be 1296. This was the video on arithmetic series, the Sn formula. I hope it made sense. In the next video, we will look at the geometric Sn formula and how to apply that to questions.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JJ Math.